Okay, welcome to the our first transaction review and calculator practice of January. Happy New Year to all of you. It's 2015. I can hardly believe it. Um, wow, today has been so busy. Tomorrow we're taking off to New Orleans because the cruise is leaving this weekend, the IRA fund cruise that Walter Wofford puts on. I'm looking forward to that. I still need to tighten up my presentations and the new song about Dodd-Frank that I'm writing for that. But I'm looking forward to all the things I'm going to learn, sharing some ideas, things that we've cultivated here, ideas we've cultivated here in this community, and then maybe meeting new investors and things like that that are going to be. There's about 130 people attending the conference on the cruise ship. So anyway, just a mad, mad day with a ton of deals going on. It's very exciting. It's just I've had about four conversations today that I just love these conversations. I mean, just for instance, I'm only going to go into one in detail because I think she was probably the most unique. But just a few minutes ago, about a half hour ago, someone had gone to my site and filled out what is that? The Note Investor form right here on the Note Queen site. Of course, my internet's going to be slow. Sell my note. Um, so they filled this out saying, yeah, I have a note to sell. Here's my contact information. Here's the basic thing. I don't get a ton of these, but I probably get a handful. I don't know, 5 to 7 a month, and maybe 25% of them, 30% of them end up doing something with it. Maybe not right away, but down the road. I guess that's pretty good. I think one thing, and this is something if you're sort of building yourself and positioning yourself, by the time they make contact with me, whether they call me, email me, or fill out one of the forms on this site, they feel like they already know me and trust me a lot of times. And so that was the case with this gentleman. He's in Virginia. And he says, I've learned so much just watching your YouTube videos, so much that I didn't know before, and of course I realize everything that I did wrong. He sold a property 2 years ago. I guess he bought it as an REO, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and then for 70,000, put 10,000 in it, so he was in it to $80,000, and he just wanted it for a rental because he could get, I don't know what he could get, $1,200 a month rent. So that's pretty nice cash on cash return, all things considered. So nice house, nice neighborhood in Virginia. And then the tenants asked if he would sell it to them, and he's saying, "Oh, I want to help families. I want to help a family um, get home ownership." So he said, and I'm going to do them a favor. They're a nice young family. They've been good tenants, and so it was worth about 135, 140. But he sold it to him for 120 with 0% down, and at 6.5% amortized over 16 years. So their monthly principal and interest payment was less than they were paying in rent, but he's feeling sheepish now because it wasn't a very good way to underwrite the transaction, and they've gotten to where they have been late on a few payments, and he had to send a demand letter to help get him from an attorney to scare him into catching up. And now he's just really disheartened because he felt really good selling, giving a great price and a great terms to a young family, and now he is sad because there's no more fun in it, and now he's just got a financial problem. He doesn't need the money, but he wants out from under the feeling of having to be the bad guy. And he just said, "Don, I'm so glad that your authenticity just comes out on those videos. I feel as if I've known you for a long time already because of all the videos that I've watched." And so we just had the best conversation. So be yourself. I mean, if you're positioning yourself out there for any aspect of this business, investing in real estate, paper, you're an agent, whatever, you attract the people that resonate with you, and the people who don't just will never call you. So that's kind of a blessing for everyone. So anyway, that was just good. And we're talking about customizing a partial purchase of that note so that he gets out from what he doesn't want, which is the headache and being the frontline bad guy, to enforce payment on the note and maybe a foreclosure if it becomes necessary. But I don't want him to walk away from all the upside that he has in it. So he could sell right now for maybe 65% of BPO, or 120 what he sold it for, which is about $77,000. But if he'll do a partial, he'll net well over $100,000 easily, even if he sells just chunks of partial payments, maybe 50 to 60 payments at a time. But anyhow, so that's the kind of thing that it just really feel good sort of stuff. So anyway, then there's this other lady. Now I met her, and we're gonna work up the numbers and stuff together. I met her for the first time on my virtual coffee call in December. She got on the phone, and she is a long time. She and her husband have been landlords for 30 years, 40 years. And now they want to help. They're concerned that it's harder and harder for people to have home ownership, especially in the lower price points. Anything below $100,000, $80,000, the financing's not there, and all that. And so they want to take the best tenants that they can in the area and give them home ownership because they just believe in it. They just believe that we need to create spread the wealth around and create more home ownership so there's more stability. And once these people pay off their house, they'll own it free and clear, and they'll have all this money that they can put in to the local economy, right? That doesn't have to go into a mortgage payment. So here's an example of, let me see if I make sure I get the numbers out. Had a great call. It was just so inspiring. So this is in Illinois. And so what they can do is, because there's the people that have cash can clean up because, like I said, there's no financing for these houses. So they just bought yesterday. They bought this house. They purchased it it's a townhome type house. I forgot to ask how many bedrooms. I think it's a 3 and 2, but I wouldn't be sure of that. They bought it for $24,000. They said it needs a little bit of rehab, cleaning up. They think about $6,000. So they're going to be all in this investment for $30,000. Now, the fair market value of this property is somewhere between $60,000 to $65,000. So what they want, and it would rent for $1,100 to $1,200. So what they want to do is get someone who would normally rent, take a down payment instead, or this is an option fee of some sort. They're looking at taking $5,000 down. They're saying right now a lot of people have their tax refunds, and so they have cash, more cash than at other times of the year. So it's kind of, she says it's the Christmas after Christmas. So between now and March, a lot of people have a few extra thousand. Normally they go out and buy cars or big flat screen TVs, but some people want home ownership instead. So she'll take $5,000 down, and if they sell at the $65,000, they'll have a first note, and this could be a land contract instead, right? Or they could put it in a land trust and sell the beneficial interest of the trust on terms. So there's like 3 different ways they could structure it, but this is the basic idea of the finances. She goes, I want someone to be able to own this if they'll invest a little bit of money up front, $5,000, which is, twice as much as they would ask for first, last, and security deposit. And I want them to own this home, and I want them to be able to own it within as soon as possible. So I want them to be fully amortized within 7 years. So that's 84 payments. And I want interest rate to be really low. So we reverse engineered. So we took, where's my calculator? Okay, so the first thing we did is she goes 1,100 rent. So I want it to be the same or less than they could rent for. I want them to own. So I've got to take out 235 for taxes and insurance that they have to pay, and she's putting in a $50 maintenance fee. I'll write that in the next slide. But anyway, so here's what they have for principal and interest every month is $865. 1,100 minus taxes, insurance, and other escrow fees. So what they can afford is $865 for principal and interest. She wants them to be able to pay it off within 7 years, and of course you could crunch the numbers around. The note is $60,000, which comes out to pretty much fair market value. They haven't really messed with the value. So if we calculate for yield, these people are getting a 5.6% interest. So isn't that fabulous? I mean, that is really great private financing right there. So here for the same amount, and she's just saying more people need to own homes. These are very deserving people. And like at the end of 7 years, look at it. They're going to have $865 that they can use to build wealth and to stimulate their local economy. So and it was like talking to a visionary. It's like she goes, we're making a good profit and we don't mind that, but we want to spread it around. Maybe they could make more, but she just really believes that this is the right thing to be doing and that more landlords should just pick it up. Now in their area, they have really favorable spread, right? They could be all in for 30, sell it for double, and have someone be able to amortize it really quickly at what they would normally spend in rent. So, I mean, not every market obviously is like this, but in her market it is. Now, her problem, let me just finish. I was going to go on. Now, so the escrow, she says now a lot of these people, they're putting $5,000 down, but a lot of them aren't used to being owners and they don't have deep reserves for things that go wrong. So she says they're escrowing. They're going to collect out of that $1,100 that they're coming in, the taxes, insurance, and here's something they're doing that makes sense to them as coming from a landlord property management background. Maintenance. They're going to collect out of that $1,100. They're putting $50 aside into a maintenance fund. So when something needs to be repaired, there's money there to do it. Because here's their thinking. Look, we may not be getting a big down payment up front, but we feel like we're in partnership with these people and we want them to succeed, number one. And number two, we don't want to get a property back after there's been a ton of deferred maintenance. So we're going to make sure that if any big thing happens that isn't covered by this $50 maintenance fee, or they can't afford it, let's say the water heater busts or something happens that's a large expense, she says, we're going to come in and fix it. They need a new heater, we're going to fix it because we want them to be successful and we want our property to be properly maintained, because if we ever get it back, then we want it to be in good shape. So it makes a lot of sense. So they have this maintenance fee that they collect. Remember, it totaled about $235, so those numbers are spread in there somehow. Also, they, like I said, they are willing to come out of pocket to help new owners with large unexpected expenses. So it's really kind of a unique perspective that she has. It was really something and very fun. So here's the deal, though. They do this a few times and they're out of cash. They're out of operating capital. She says, we don't want to sell the whole thing and we want to stay in it because we'll be here to solve any problems that could possibly go wrong. And man, that is just like like golden to my ears. I love people who are willing to stay in there, because I don't want to buy an asset where I could potentially have a gigantic headache. I want boots on the ground and someone who has not only a visionary interest in it, but a financial interest, so that everybody's lined up to keep my life simple when I come in with my investors. And some of you are my investors. So and so she goes, how do I get my money back out of it? And she says, what would you need? And she goes, what I'd like to do, we want our 30,000 back that we spent, so that we can go buy another house and do it again for another family, but we'd like to keep half of this payment. So I go, well, let's see what the numbers look like. So instead of just selling maybe the first 3 or 4 years of the payment, she wants to sell half of the payment for the full term of the 7 years. So I'm going to bring up, so I press recall and payment, and divide by 2. She wants to keep this. This is her perfect picture. So that'll be the new payment. She's hoping to get 30,000. I'll put that in present value to see if I can bring that in there and make sense. What would my yield be then? Well, obviously, it's half of everything was half. This is half, that was half, so 5.6. That's not going to cut it, obviously, right? She goes, what would you need? Now, normally, I would want this to be higher, but I said my minimum yield requirement is 12%. I can barely make a little bit of money at a 12% yield on a small note, but I'm willing to keep my spread thin, and maybe I can juice this up a little bit somewhere. I don't know, but let's just say I can't. There's a lot of safety. First of all, I'm only at 50% loan to value, right? It's worth 60 to 65. My investment to value is 30,000 or 50%. So there's a lot of safety there. Another thing is it's amortizing. So with every payment, it's getting safer and safer, and the note is more and more valuable. If I need 12%. So, I may consider doing this at my bare bones rate right there. So basically, if she keeps half of the payment, all I can bring to the table is 24.5. Right? Excuse me. So I said, if you want 30,000, which makes sense from an underwriting perspective, let's solve for how much of the payment you'd have to give up. So basically, she'd have to be giving me 530 instead of so basically $100 more per month. So she and her husband would keep 330 or something like that a month, which isn't bad. They get all their money out and they still are getting $3,600 a year on it. So it's a good partnership. This is what I love. A partnership of a seller, a partnership of a buyer, and the partnership of an investor. Everybody is just taking a fair return. I wonder, just for heaven, if I just bump this up a teeny bit, what does that do? I probably might inch it up a bit, because my yield spread's pretty low on that. Even if I brought there's lots of people would be happy with 9%, but I'd have to give, my yield spread's pretty tight on there. Well, I'll have to work with these numbers a little bit, but anyway, just saying. So I just feel good about these things. These are win-win-win solutions, and everybody gets what they want. Seller gets to sell, buyer gets to buy. Someone who otherwise would have no chance at home ownership gets a chance at it. An investor gets an excellent, safe return that's really babysat really well with the boots on the ground. This lady, is right there to handle anything, and she's well qualified, after being a landlord for a few decades. So anyway, I just really thought it was refreshing. Wanted to share with you her perspective. She just believes that homeownership needs to be available to more people. She knows the system isn't setting people up for that, and she is taking it upon herself in her local market to to change that, just one house at a time. So, and this is the kind of thing that I hear on a pretty routine basis of people picking up this vision and wanting to empower each other and create private solutions that don't make us depend on Washington and Wall Street for everything. So, anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for being with me. Happy New Year. I look forward to catching up with you after the cruise and sharing with you the undoubtedly the fun stories, ideas, and thoughts that I will be blessed with in the next week or so. Okay? Take care. I appreciate you all. You have a good night. Bye bye.